would you look at that? I didn't expect to see you here. I'm currently hiding in the back of my buddy's pickup truck. But why, you may ask? Well, that's because he was part of a game called We Harvest Shadows. And the demo came out recently, and it was a fine-ass demo. One of the finest of wines this demo was. So I thought I'd come and congratulate him, as any good friend does. But I also thought, in the spirit of Spooktober, we'd give him a little scare. Guess who? What the fuck? Dude, you didn't need to freak out like that. It was just a prank, dude. Oh, fuck. Okay, well, while I rest here a moment, how about I tell you about the game I mentioned? With over 300,000 wishlists on Steam, everyone who's done a playthrough of this game has loved it. There's glowing praise everywhere from the community. But not anyone who I've seen who's played the game has actually really discussed it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you why you should be paying attention to the indie horror game We Harvest Shadows. Before we start, I just want to say thank you so much for all the reception on the previous 2 videos. It is absolutely wild to me how much people have been interacting with my stuff so early on in this whole YouTube hobby of mine. If you do end up liking this video, be sure to sub to the channel. It would mean the world to me. But be sure it's worth your while first. And if you're interested, stick around after the video because there's some things I'd like to discuss about the channel and the future. Okay, enough wasting time. Let's get into this. Okay, so here's a quick rundown. You are Garrett, and after some unspecified life events, most likely that of the tragic variety, you purchase a large, isolated property and exile yourself to begin anew in a life of solitude. So the gameplay is a mix of farming simulator by day and survival horror by night. But you may want to be on a lookout during the day as well, because it appears to be nesting season in these neck of the woods, and every now and then you might be accosted by an unreasonably aggressive crow. And I know something you could be referring to, but I just... Oh Jesus, what the... The fuck just touched me? Then again, this could just be my experience. The avian community and I haven't really gone along since that unfortunate night in Cancun a couple years back. We don't talk about that. So I'm a very big fan of the horror genre, both movies and video games. And this game is going for a very specific type of horror that I absolutely appreciate. It's not the kind of horror where some monster will run at you and grab you and then scream in your face. It's slow and it's insidious. It's the crack of a branch in the woods when you know you're alone, or the howl of the wind on a starless night. It's the feeling of being watched, knowing something is there just beyond the tree lines, waiting for you. It's the kind of horror where you simply go looking for your pickup truck, but instead almost get jumped by the Lorax's crackhead cousin. Someone stole my truck. We're going back to the house now. We're gonna just go back to the house. We're just gonna go, it was a nice walk and all, but, I'm getting a bit tired. The art to a good scare is not the scare itself, but the tension that leads up to it. Because as soon as the monster or whatever is there to murder you actually gets a hold of you, all that built-up tension gets released. And that is because your brain now has a chance to process what the fuck you're actually dealing with. It's the fear of the unknown and what could possibly be out there that is so powerful, not what is actually there. And I think that is one of the key factors in any good horror piece of media. Not the only factor, but a key factor, one that many creators, when making a horror show or video game, should always rely on. And I have to thank the creator of this video game, David Well, because now I get to talk about one of my favorite shows, The Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan.
The Exorciser.
This show and Bly Manor are the shows that I always recommend when people ask me what's a good horror TV show. And that is because this show does not rely on cheap jump scares and gore to get you scared. Instead, it focuses on well-realized characters and an ever-present threat of something you don't quite understand. I've talked about these shows on my streams a lot, but that funeral scene in episode 6, oh my god, it's so good! With the exception of maybe the ending, I love everything about this show. If you watch this show, just pay attention to the background. There's always something there. There's always something watching the characters. And according to David, this show's approach to horror is what inspired him for his approach to horror in his video game. And I can definitely see it. David is definitely being faithful to this philosophy to horror. For example, this little guy that I've shown a couple times now. Yeah, I totally missed this guy when I was streaming the game. It was only afterwards where people started pointing out that I had missed him that I actually saw he was there. And that idea that I could have played so much of this game and there could have been so many different little things watching me from the distance or from some odd angle that I just didn't notice. Oh, I love that feeling so much. Go watch my stream. If you see anything else that I missed, let me know. Come back to this video and let me know what you found. I'm definitely curious to know if I missed anything else. If we read the Steam devlogs David has posted, we can glean more insights into how he's approaching horror in this video game. Specifically, I'd like to highlight Dev Update number 3, Trying Something New with Horror, in which David talks about how he personally is tired of death cults, zombies, demons, etc., and how these concepts don't really terrify him anymore. The Rain is an example of something he wants to see more of. It should be pretty self-evident by now that David is not really a fan of gore or the shock imagery that a lot of horror media relies on. As evident by what he says next, what truly scares David is the idea of being alone in a forest and not seeing anything at all until all of a sudden you see a normal human face looking at you from behind a tree. A good term to describe what David is trying to say is the uncanny valley effect. I'm sure you've heard of this before. It's the idea that something looks human, but the back of your brain is telling you you're in danger. A smile is often considered a sign of happiness or joy, but there are times that a smile conceals something more malevolent. Maybe the smile is a bit too wide, too much teeth showing, or maybe their smile just doesn't reach their eyes, as if the smile is forced or not genuine in some way. But something tips you off that this person looking at you right now does not have good intentions. You can speculate on what they're going to do, but as David puts it, the scariest thing to you is what your mind imagines when it fills in the blanks.
Sound Russian?
How could I sound anything, silly? I'm plastic. I don't even have a voice box. I had to borrow this one. Don't turn on the light.
Are you going to kill me?
No! I mean, yes, but not for a good long while yet. I don't want you to go to waste.
For me, this type of horror is extremely effective. I could not actually do this part of the video while the lights were turned off. So, good luck to anyone who is watching this before bed. Hope you have a good rest. I mentioned before the fear of the unknown and how powerful of a tool it is in the horror genre. Now, what people often think of when that is said is just hiding your monster away in the shadows so no one can see it or you don't get a good look at it. But another aspect to it is just simply not fully understanding the situation that the main character or you as the viewer are in. The fear of the unknown can come from many places. The uncanny valley effect, and what David is talking about here, is one of those aspects of just not fully understanding what the intentions of the creature may be. Sure, you know you're in danger, but you don't know what kind of danger you're in. Are they planning to murder you? Are you just trapped here? Are they toying with you? You can only speculate. Let's go back to Hill House for a moment. In that show, we start seeing some creepy stuff pretty quickly. We see ghosts all over the place. You can see them in the background. We already talked about that. But we don't know why they're there or what their intentions are. We just know we're supposed to be afraid of them. So even though we do see the creatures, we still are in that sense of unknown territory where we don't know exactly what we're dealing with. David also then cites Silent Hill as another source of inspiration. And then he shows this really fucking cool mood board that I vibe with so hard. Look at some of these images. At first glance, some of these images may look totally normal, but then you look a bit closer and you start noticing how weird they all are. I don't really have any smart critiques or insights about this. I just vibe with this mood board on a anatomical level. David then just speaks very frankly about who is and who is not going to love this game. He says that the people who love jump scares and tons of gore will probably be disappointed by this game. And he's okay with that because he wants to give this game a unique identity. And to do that, he has to take a risk. I could not agree with this sentiment more. The best forms of media of any kind are always those with a strong vision. Sure, a lot of them do fail. Some visions are just flawed. I know people will disagree with me on that, but that is the truth. Some visions are just flawed and need to be reworked. But to put your vision out there, no matter how hard you work on it or how many times you change it, is to risk something. And David is taking a risk by putting his vision out there. He knows people may not like this game, but he's willing to stand on his vision. And thanks to David, I now have a vision for myself. And I know I should risk it all. Enough sitting around. Who cares if I'm bleeding from every orifice in my body and have multiple open wounds? It's time to venture forth. My vision may be blurry, but my destiny is clearly in sight. Onward we go. God, which fucking way am I even going here? See a damn thing. Hello, is anyone home? Well, no answer. Guess I can just sit around here for a bit. Not a bad place. Weather's pretty nice too. I'm sure someone will come along shortly. For now though, let's talk about my personal experience playing this demo. It seems like I had a much tamer experience compared to some of the other people that played this game. I definitely did not get some of the crazier random events, or at least I'm assuming they're random events, because while I did talk about how this game utilizes really subtle horror, some of these things would have been very hard to miss. Why do you want to go outside? I don't want to play. That's not cool! Oh, God. You're not a chimkin. You're a chimpunk. Hey! Ah! Oh, God. 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 Oh, God
Come on, Garrett, get a grip.
You're awfully calm! So the majority of horror games that I've played, usually once you play through them once, you've experienced pretty much everything they have to offer. Excluding obvious examples like Until Dawn, where the whole point is to have branching paths, most horror experiences won't offer anything new on subsequent playthroughs. So that's why something like We Harvest Shadows is kind of interesting. Sure, the idea of random events isn't anything new in horror games, I'm sure it's been done before, but it does give value to the consumer who can play the game multiple times and still have a fresh and new experience. Now, getting to the actual meat of the gameplay, I mentioned how this is a blend of survival horror and farming sim. If put on a scale, this game definitely leans more to the survival horror side of things. Don't be thinking you're going to be getting Stardew Valley with the occasional ghoul chasing you through the cornfields. From what I saw in the demo, the farming management of the game is more of a way to space out the scares and gatekeep your progress as you're going throughout the game. But I don't mean that as a negative. It does its job well, and I had fun doing these things. As I went about completing them, I would often find myself starting to relax and inevitably letting my guard down, only to have the game poke me just slightly enough to remind me I'm not alone here. Beans? Okay, It created a nice little gameplay loop of relaxing during the day, doing my thing, only to find myself panicking and running for shelter as soon as it became night. Also, companion cat. I named him Beans.
Where'd you come from, little guy?
I agree.
I think I have a food bowl on the porch for you.
Do I? Yes, absolutely. We're gonna absolutely feed the cat. Yes! Yes! You get beans. You will survive like I do. On beans. Oh. Beans, I think you made me ill. A little bit nauseated. I do think the game's farming aspects could be fleshed out a bit more. They do feel a bit dull in some places. Mind you, this is a demo, and I think if you were to overcomplicate things, it would take away from the actual point of the game. At the very least, though, I think the economy of this game needs a rework. It was kind of odd to sell a box of tomatoes for almost 10 times the amount that you could sell a fully grown tree for. And there are just clearly superior ways to making money in this game. The chickens are a goddamn gold mine. I only had 5 of them, but I was already getting 4 dozen eggs per day. Now, I'm no animal expert, but I don't think chickens lay that many eggs. On top of that, only 2 eggs with the equivalent selling price of a fully grown tree. I haven't been keeping up to date with modern day egg prices, but I don't think they're that expensive. But like I said, it's a demo. Probably will be worked out in the future. Moving on, when you first start, you are enclosed by this fence, which limits the area you have access to. So your first meaningful purchase will be that of the axe upgrade. This will allow you to chop down the fence and explore the world beyond. But why do you need to chop down the fence? Why don't you just climb over it? Oh, I'm sorry. The sight of a small child causes me to commit violence. I'm working on it. But it poses a very reasonable question. But a stupid one, and you should be ashamed for even asking it. Clearly, Garrett has invested heavily into his strength stat, and supplemented it with various highly illegal chemicals that you can find in the upgrade shop. This has allowed him to carry multiple logs upon his shoulders with ease, but he has neglected his agility. This has given him the body equivalent to that of a roided out bowling ball on stilts. And if he were to ever bend beyond a 45-degree angle, he would fall, and likely never get up again, like that of a turtle on its shell, doomed to a slow and agonizing death within the sun. So clearly, we need the axe upgrade. And after just a few quick swings, wait, why don't you need the axe upgrade? Don't you get an axe earlier in the game? Again, very reasonable question. But you're forgetting a key factor about Garrett's situation. This forest is filled with demons, and they have imbued this fence with dark, malevolent energies, making it impervious to any mundane axe. We need something that can match these unholy forces. And you see, the axe we buy is specially made to do this. It's imbued with the properties that can only be given from the most powerful of beings. And the material that it is made from, that is right, you guessed it, it is nanobots. You see, much like demons, nanobots don't pay taxes. So in the eyes of the CRA, they are morally indistinguishable from one another. But the nanobots have struck a deal. In exchange for their crimes being forgiven and receiving a small fraction of the CRA's power, they must help Garrett defeat this wooden palisade of demonic origin and venture forth beyond to repossess the demon's hoard of zinc slabs as recompense for the centuries of unholy financial malpractice. Once and for all, proving you should be far more afraid of the CRA coming for your hard-earned tax dollar than any demon incursion. But why is Garrett swept up in this whole war between demons and creatures from the underworld? And why does he have to give up his hard-earned zinc, even though he was the one that rightfully earned it? He fought for it fair and square. He has every God-given right to this land's natural and unnatural resources. And clearly, the developer of this game agrees with me, because the ending of this demo only starts when you purchase what the libertarians call an anti-taxation insurance device, also known as a loaded gun. That's better. It was getting cold out there. Let's keep going. With Garrett's assurance that his property is now protected, and the chance of being mauled by wolves marginally reduced, the ending of the demo is initiated. I won't go over the ending in detail, you'll have to play the demo for yourself, but the story up until this point has been very sentimental. Garrett is clearly grappling with his emotions and processing the events of his past. I was thinking about this demo long after I had finished playing it. I got curious about where the story may be going, so I went back and played the developer's previous 2 games, Home is Where One Starts and The First Tree. And I even went to David's YouTube channel to learn more about the guy himself. He's a very sentimental dude, but he seems like a very genuine, kind person. And his video, Goodbye YouTube, really spoke to me. He talks about how after he reached a certain point in his career, he felt a little too spread out. Work, family, and a bunch of other things was all getting to him at once, and he felt like he was destroying a part of himself just to keep everything else going. You can watch his full YouTube video if you want to hear everything he has to say on the matter, but this is the 3rd video I've made on this channel, at least the 3rd proper one that I put work into, and what he said in this video is actually good advice if I intend to continue with this hobby of mine. But the insights he gives can be applied to anyone, not just me and YouTube. So I'm about to spoil David's previous 2 games. If for some reason you want to go play them yourself, go play them now because I'm going to talk about them in detail. Okay, so David's first game was Home is Where One Starts, and it's a walking sim. According to David, it's in the same vein as something like Gone Home or Dear Esther. I know there's a debate whether these games should even be considered real games in the first place, but I did play What Remains of Edith Finch years ago, and I think that qualifies as a game in this category. And I do remember enjoying it. I also remember enjoying this game for that matter, so maybe I should explore more of this genre because I seem to like them. For now though, let me tell you that this is a very short experience. After 42 minutes, I was able to get all 8 achievements, plus restart the game and get the secret ending. This game doesn't even have a save feature, it is that short. But I had a nice time walking around slowly learning this girl's story. When it comes to game writing, David definitely wears his heart on his sleeve, and it shows in this game. This goes doubly so for his next game, The First Tree. This game tells the story of a fox searching for her pups, and as you explore, you also listen to the narration of a man reminiscing about his early life with his father in Alaska. And spoiler, they're both dead. Both the pups and the father are dead in this story. This story covers concepts like grief and loss and the emotions that come along with that. David definitely poured a lot of himself into this game. Him and his wife actually voiced the two main characters, and his wife's character is actually the same from the first game. They reference this throughout The First Tree quite a bit. The two games are supposed to be connected. Now here's the part of the video where I become the asshole again. And that is because I think The First Tree is kind of shit. I actually had a better experience with David's first game than this one. For starters, the world is just not interesting to explore. The game looks nice, I got a lot of nice panning shots as I was recording it, but most of the things that are worthwhile finding in the world are marked by these beams of light. So the game kind of just becomes a list of things I'm checking off, rather than me actually exploring and discovering anything. In the previous game, I came upon this graveyard, and the character actually mentioned how they had lost something on the far end of the graveyard, but they were too afraid to actually go and retrieve it. And if you go around and actually look for it, you can find what she was referring to. Nothing is mentioned when you find it, it's just a neat little detail that you can come across if you pay attention to what is being said. And the game is filled with little things like that. It's a little self-contained story where you can take it at your own pace and discover it however you want. There is no guide, there is no point of interest marked on a map, it's your own journey. The First Tree has none of these things. You are basically on a linear path the whole game. Yeah, there's technically these open zones where you can explore a bit more, but you always know where you need to go and what is important in those open zones. You're really not going to discover anything you weren't expecting to. You're being taken on a ride, but a ride where the gameplay is also kind of lacking as well. This game is more of a walking simulator than the actual walking simulator was. But it's a walking simulator that fucks up the walking mechanics. So what you're seeing right now is me testing out the character's walking cycle, because I was noticing something weird. So when you walk straight forward, you actually walk slower than if you were walking slightly to the left or to the right. So this isn't a huge issue. It doesn't really take away from my experience of the game, but since my experience of the game wasn't that good to begin with, it just adds to that feeling of being disappointed. On top of this, there's no real interesting gameplay mechanics ever introduced in the game. You're just walking from place to place, clicking a button, and then listening to the narration. And sure, that was what I was doing in the previous game, but I actually had to put some work into finding the things that I could click on. There are these butterflies that make you jump higher, but they're only in this one section and then never show up again. It's also extremely short like the first game. It took me around 95 minutes to complete this game, and that is with me going out of my way to collect 100 of these stars for the achievement. I even stopped to talk to my chat for a few minutes, so you could even shave off maybe 10 to 15 minutes. None of these things would really be a problem in themselves, but it's when you finally add the price tag on top of it all that I really start taking issue. This game is $14 after tax, and I think that is an unfair price for the level of quality and length of this game. I understand the story may be extremely personal to David, and I know he's not a professional coder, at least from what he says, but I can't help but feel that the price tag is too high for the quality of the product. The previous game was around $4, and I'm much more okay with that because even though it is a far shorter game, I still felt like I was getting my money's worth from it. There could have been a really good game here though. Right at the end, you end up playing the man that we've been listening to narrate throughout the game. But now you're in the real world, a more realistic environment. And I couldn't help but think, why wasn't the game just set here? You can still play as a fox, you can still be looking for her pups, but have it in an open world with no beams of light showing me where to go, and you could have just roamed around and slowly discovered everything on your own. It would have made for a much more meaningful experience. But alas, that's not what we got. We got a very lackluster, semi-platformer, more of a walking simulator, game that, while it has some cool ideas, just wasn't worth $14. Maybe I'm being too harsh. After all, we're here to talk about David's newest work. And frankly, it's a huge improvement from his previous 2 games, even for it just being a demo. That doesn't mean it can't improve. I've already talked about how I think the economy could be reworked a bit. As for story, David is still continuing with his very heartfelt way of writing, which isn't bad. He's improving on it. It's definitely a lot better than his previous works. David is voicing the main character once again, and compared to his work in the first tree, he's doing a lot better here. There was a few times where the character had a very odd reaction to the situation at hand, but that's more bad voice acting direction than any actual bad voice acting. Speaking about characters having weird reactions to things, at the start of the demo, Garrett's brain melts a bit, and for some reason he considers it a good idea to throw away the key to the front gate. A decision I took immediate issue with even when I was live streaming this game. Somehow this means he's trapped himself here, I guess. But also not really, because clearly someone is getting onto the property to haul away the stuff we sell, and we know that Garrett has plans for people to come visit him at the farm, so this whole idea that he's trapped here, I just don't really buy. And I'm not really sure how to feel about this. I do think this is probably something that should be worked out a bit. It's definitely the biggest issue I had with the whole story so far. Now, I have a personal theory though. I think this land is some sort of purgatory. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. So with that being my mindset, I think we should have had Garrett wake up on the first day, wanting to go for supplies, but when we get to the fence, we see it's been replaced by some impassable brick wall. I think this would have been a much better reason for why we can't leave the property, rather than we're feeling a bit sad right now, so we decide to throw our keys into the middle of the woods, trapping ourselves here even though we're not really trapped. Plus, I think having this giant brick wall always looming over us would add a sense of oppressiveness to the situation, which I think would be really good for a horror game. Aside from this point, I really don't have a whole lot of suggestions to improve the game, other than just general touch-ups here and there. It did run a bit bad at first, but David already mentioned how he's going to improve that. My biggest concern about the game right now is actually it coming out at all. After learning about David, I can see how being a game dev can be very hard for him at times, and that's alright, there's no shame in that. But he has already mentioned multiple times how he's feeling burnt out on developing this game. That said, in the most recent dev update, he has talked about how he's now working with a publisher and has a full team working on the game. So overall, I'm pretty confident this game will come out. And with how popular the demo was, I think it's going to do well. If we get the same level of quality I see in the demo, then I'd be happy to pay $20 to $25 for this game. If we get exceptionally better quality, considering there's a team behind it now, I'd happily drop $30 or more. There is some good stuff here that I'm very excited to see. The only thing I'd really say to David now is take your time, focus on the game, don't rush it, just let it come out when it comes out. Don't compromise on your vision, take that risk like you're already intending to do, because you got something here, and I am very excited to see where it goes. Okay, that's all I really have to say on the game. Most of the footage you saw today was from my live stream. I stream pretty erratically right now, but I'm trying to be more consistent by streaming every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be sure to follow me on Twitch or Kick, or just stay here on YouTube and you can catch me live. I also made a Discord channel. I've never made one before, so this one may be a bit of a mess, but it's a place where everyone can go and talk about all the things they love to talk about. I plan to host community events here one day, I plan to have watch-togethers, just a bunch of little things. I also have this weird little bot thing that has a bunch of little games in it, so feel free to mess around. Also, go play the demo for yourself. It's free on Steam, it's a great little experience. I'd also really appreciate it if you support this video. Hit the like button, sub to my channel, whatever the YouTube stuff is, but I think I've talked enough now. And you know what? After learning about David and how he's slowly building a career for himself and a name in the video games industry, I'm feeling a bit inspired. And this house isn't too bad. It's a bit of a fixer-upper, but with a bit of tender love and care, this place would be a great home. What the hell was that? Hello? Someone upstairs? I don't know what to say about this. I really don't. I don't have a comment. Hi, Claire. What odd timing meeting you here. I didn't know you came to this part of town.
Claire, I'm so sorry.
You're lying. Your eyes are closed. You don't see me at all. Oh, Jesus!
No one to talk